This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is someone that really doesn't need an introduction, Dr. Mark Skousen. Mark, how are you, sir?
Gerardo, I'm doing really well and glad to be on your program.
It's great to have you on. Where do I start? We're living in interesting times. The markets are definitely interesting. I want to talk about the Freedom Fest. You're the founder and the producer of the Freedom Fest. And, I reached out because I really can't think of a better time and a conference that is of more value than the Freedom Fest, given where the overall indices and the markets are. I'd love to get your thoughts on the markets before we talk Freedom Fest, if that's okay with you.
Well, that's fine. And in fact, Freedom Fest, we picked the theme last year, and it seems to be a really appropriate for 2022. And it's called the Changing the Tide, or the tide is changing. And that is really what I think has been happening in the market, where we saw the end, apparently the end of the mother of all bull markets, and the beginning of a new commodity bull market, particularly oil, not gold as much. I mean, gold is flat this year, and the gold mining stocks are down like most other stocks, tech stocks, and so forth. But you're definitely seeing a turning of the tide in the markets, as well as in politically. I would say the same thing. I think 2022 is it will turn out to be a major shift away from the radical Democrats who have been in charge now for a couple of years to a more sanguine approach by the conservative Republicans. And we're seeing this particularly in the state level, where the Republican run states are doing so much better than the states run by the Democrats, and that's a significant change. So I actually think that can provide some optimism about inflation and government policy in general. I think we see the markets looking forward, as they always do, and we're seeing a bit of a recovery in the stock market. I don't know how long that's going to last. That's always a good question. And especially, it's all going to be tied to the inflation that we're suffering from. And it's not, certainly the war in the Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, has disrupted supply chains on top of everything else that the lockdown created. So a lot of this is engineered by major mistakes by the Federal Reserve, by the Biden administration, by Putin, and so forth. So I think this inflation is still going to be flaring up, and is still going to be a problem that really is going to challenge Wall Street in our own portfolio. I'm reminded of Dick Russell's, the late Dick Russell, the Dow Theory Letters, who said, in a bear market, the winner is he who loses the least. And we can all find ways to make money in the bear market, but it still is a struggle to overall be successful in our portfolio.
Mark, we've seen 3 administrations now, right? The last 3, whether it's Obama, whether it's Trump, and now Biden, really oversee fiscal policy that has been incredibly dovish. And we've seen central bankers around the world, not just in the US, up until recently, almost in lockstep with those types of policies. You mentioned 2 things there. You mentioned economically, you think we're at an inflection point, but you also mentioned a new commodities bull market. And I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit.
So when the Federal Reserve pumped 45% new money into the system over the last 3 years, and you have on top of that these growing deficits that started, it goes all the way back to Bush in year 2000. At that point we were running surpluses, but it's been deficit spending ever since. So you put those two together, and inflation is coming roaring back, and commodities have always been the place to be during a heightened inflation. But you have to be careful on what commodities you select, because copper's been really strong, aluminum, lumber prices, basic commodities that are used in construction and so forth, in transportation. Oil and gas have both been in a super bull market since March of 2022 when they collapsed. It's just been upward ever since. But gold and the mining companies have really struggled, and so you have to be alert to that. I just got back from the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, and they had all these penny stock companies trying to raise money. And mining business is a tough business, as you know. We all have had a lot of experience in that. The profit margins are thin, unless you really discover the mother lode. It's not a very profitable venture. Plus, they're always raising money and diluting the stock. So those, as opposed to buybacks, which is being, the tech companies are all engaged in buybacks rather than issuing new stock. Although executives do, when they get new stock, that is a dilution. So you have to watch that as well. But so overall, I'm bullish on commodities, and we're talking about that at Freedom Fest. We have Jim Rogers coming, for example, and Doug Casey, of course, who's very familiar with these markets, and Jeff Phillips and Van Simmons. I mean, we have a lot of people that I'm sure your audience is familiar with, and these people are going to give us, Adrian Day, I just mentioned, he's another one that will be there. It's going to be quite a conference of where we can talk about commodities, as well as the more traditional areas, because I think, you have to remember we're still under the Trump tax cuts, which is one of the benefits of the Trump era, and so technology is still booming. There's still new technologies being developed. We're going to have a big debate on Bitcoin and the future of cryptocurrencies as well. So it's like the stock market. It's a market of stocks, not the stock market itself that matters. So we have to look at each individual sector and determine what's the best strategy.
Where can people get more information on that spectacular lineup? You named some names, obviously, that I'm very, very familiar with, but I was looking earlier this week at the lineup, and it's absolutely loaded. How can people get more information there, Mark?
Yeah, in fact, we have almost 300 speakers. I mean, it's just incredible. And our headliners are, of course, two of the top libertarian senators, Senator Rand Paul and Senator Mike Lee will be there. We have as our keynote speaker John Cleese, the famous British comedian who is really very critical of cancel theory, cancel me, the cancel culture that's going on. We have Glenn Beck coming. We have Betsy DeVos. We have Steve Moore, John Fund. The lineup is just incredible. If people go to freedomfest.com, they can see the whole lineup. In the next day or two, we're going to be posting our entire session. We have like 250 breakout sessions as well as general sessions. We do have a full 3-day investment conference that we're going to have with Alec Green and Jim Rogers and all the other people that I mentioned as well, Jim Woods. So that'll be something that'll be worthwhile. We have over 2,000 people coming up. So it's really an incredible, the buzz when you walk in the exhibit hall, and the Anthem Film Festival that we do, the Libertarian Film Festival, the investment conference, the debates. We have some incredible debates. We're going to have a big debate on Trump. Should he run in 2024? We have Wayne Allen Root against Justin Amash on that issue. Was the election stolen? We're going to cover that in our debates as well. So we really have a whole group of, it's really an intellectual feast of philosophy and history and science and technology, and it's all in the entertainment capital of the world in Las Vegas. So the dates are July 13th through the 16th, so it's just a month away. And we're filling up very quickly in terms of our hotel room block and so forth. If people use the code EAGLE, just EAGLE, 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 they can get $50 off the registration fee. And we'd love to have as many people there as you can. And it's just a great opportunity to mingle and meet people of like minds who are concerned citizens about what's happening in this country. And it's not all good.
Couldn't agree more. Freedom Fest 2022, turning the tide at the Mirage in Las Vegas. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is the first time we're at the Mirage, but they have really one of the finest convention centers there. You just drop right down from your hotel room and you're right there at the convention center. So you don't have to walk a mile like you have with Caesar's Palace and some of these other places.
Dr. Skousen, it's an absolute pleasure. Freedomfest.com. Everybody use the code EAGLE. That was EAGLE. Anything else to add to that, Mark?
That'll do it. Thank you.
All right. Nice chatting. You take care now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.